Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the morning brief on Thursday, August 20th, 2020. All right, we are going to invest with military precision this morning. If you're joining us on replay, thanks for stopping by. If you want to know more, go to ototnow.com. I'll give you a free trial. You can come into the room where you see a group of us get together, share ideas, and discuss both long-term and short-term investing opportunities, and all in an effort to make some money. So it is, we do use call signs, as you can see from the screen here. So keeping it anonymous, don't need to know who you are, or I'll know who you are, but other than that, other people in the room won't know who you are. And what you don't see on the replay is there's a chat window open and a Q&A window open, which are how the team communicates with each other. So that's how we share our ideas, and you'll hear me talk to anything that you happen to bring up, whether it's related to the morning brief or not. With that, let's go ahead and get started. Our mission objectives this morning are to grow our money, protect our money, and live off our money. Specifically today, we're going to talk about the electric vehicle battery companies. One of them has a terribly negative headline this morning, so we will address that and then talk about some of the others that are doing very well out there. Our question today is going to be about Bitcoin. You know, I've been dismissive of Bitcoin from pretty much day one, and I'm starting to change my mind. I don't hold any, I haven't recommended it, but I did talk to somebody for about 2 hours last night about whether Bitcoin should be in a portfolio and what's the purpose of it. Does it really act as an inflation hedge? Is it another form of digital gold? There's a lot of things to consider there, and some of it actually makes sense. So I will talk about that, and tonight's podcast that's going to go out, I have a 90-minute session with the same individual again to basically go through several ideas as to some of the specifics of stuff that I can't explain yet, but a very long podcast coming out. I hope it'll be wildly popular because I think it's been around for 10 years now, so I can't dismiss it anymore, and I can't say it's not legitimate because it's here. So let's learn more about it today. I'll talk to it after the trading is over, and then we will go off and learn more tonight. All right, as far as our flow today, it'll be long, short, open, short, long. What that means is we'll start with long-term investing. We will, at 10 minutes prior to the open, start looking at some short-term names. The market is in the red today. I do expect some more red going from now all the way up to the election. I've been talking about that. It has not necessarily happened yet, but here's where I think we finally, we made our new highs. Apple hit 2 trillion. We've got the Democratic National Convention going on, so all the hype associated with that. And now is where the market is actually set up to start selling off or pricing in some reality of what would life look like if we have a Democratic election, a Democratic sweep, if you will, and the tax cuts and how that would affect the market and all that. So again, overriding theme is safety. But since we deal in individual stocks, of course, we can go in and be very selective at what we are invested in. All right, we'll go through a market review. Again, that will be around the world, and we'll talk about the headline review, which is going to be the U.S. headlines. There's the names we're going to talk about. The first 4 are names you may or may not recognize, but those are all electric vehicle names. And then the last 2 are index funds. If that is your means of investing, then there's two options for you, and I will talk to both. We'll go into day trading mode for just a few minutes around the market open. We did have a huge day trade yesterday. Jack Henry, the first one was Sorrento, again, about 1 hour, and then the Jack Henry was about a 7-hour trade. So we will look at Jack Henry again. It may continue downhill. And then we have 8 names that are setting up that I've already got on my list already to take a look at. We will execute the market open. We will answer all your questions, and I will end with the question of the day. If you have any tech issues, contact me at steve@ototnow.com. My staff is standing by to answer your questions and help you out. And lastly, this is a financial education presentation, so you have to do your own due diligence before you act on any of the information that you hear today. All right, let's go ahead and go up to the TD Ameritrade platform. I'll share that out to you now, and we'll go to this screen. What you're looking at is the quote monitor for the S&P 500, or otherwise known as the SPY. That is the 1 year that you're seeing on that chart, and you can see, the V-shaped recovery that's trailed out all the way now until pretty much straight up until yesterday, and then yesterday was kind of of a big red day. So haven't really seen too many of these, but we were certainly due for one after hitting all-time highs just the day prior. When you switch over and look at the Qs, again, Qs were in the red yesterday, but again, way above their highs. So I do expect both the Qs and the Nasdaq to settle in, anywhere from really 5 up to 20% going into the election. So that's what you can expect to hear me talk about. But we'll see if it happens. There's certainly a lot of good things happening in the economy, and the market has been excited about that. All right, as far as the 5-day, here's the 5-day look. Again, pretty much straight up. Here was the end of day, so midday yesterday, selling off pretty hard into the end of day, and then of course it continued down. We saw a bump and then right back down. We're selling off going into the market open. So a lot of this is reversion to the mean. A lot of it is because the market has been a little bit optimistic about everything that's going on out there in the world. All right, as far as earnings, the big one we had out this morning was Alibaba. Put it up front and center here. Alibaba, obviously Chinese Amazon is how you can think of it. But if you're familiar, they are even bigger and more monopolistic, if you will, as far as than Amazon. I mean, they're bigger than Amazon's. All right, so put that in your brain, bigger than Amazon. It is one of the few Chinese stocks that I've held basically throughout all the U.S.-China tensions, that will continue, especially if Trump gets reelected. Then you're going to see more of the Chinese stocks getting hit. So some of them are not touchable right now. Alibaba is one that you can just hold. Don't worry about what it's going to do at the end of 2020. Worry about where it's going to be in 2025 because it's huge. It's also spinning off Ant Financial, which is its big financial arm, which is kind of nice. So shareholders of BABA, there's going to be either some cash or shares payout associated with that. So I'm excited for that because Ant Financial is a huge financial arm in China. All right, so that's what we have we'll click to our trade screen, and then we'll come back down and look at CNBC to go around the world. As far as the futures, which you're going to see pop up here in just a second. There we go. You should be seeing that now. Here's what you can see for the futures. We'll refresh these, pretty much red across the board and getting more red as we talk this morning. Around the world to Europe, heavily in the red, over 1%. Let's see, over in Asia, again, red across the board, mostly over 1%. Here's our numbers from yesterday. What you did see is the big jump in the VIX, again, for a long trade in what I think is going to be setting up as a continued sell-off on into the election. We'll see. No crystal ball there. But if so, a long VIX trade is something you can day trade, or it's something you can actually take and hold. It's not meant to be held forever, but you can certainly do a swing trade, which again is holding it now for anywhere from overnight out to that 6 to 9 months point is kind of called that swing trade. But yeah, take a look at long VIX. We're going to see a lot of red over here in the other holdings. I assume is what is going to happen. We shall see. Treasuries 0.65% or so. That's about even from yesterday. Oil dipping a little bit, but still well above the 40. So actually the oil, from as much trauma as there was back in February, remember oil futures went to zero. Holding in there above 40, it's really pretty stable out there. I'm not worried about the oil world at all. Gold's selling off a little bit. But remember, this is a place where money will hide out if the market starts selling off pretty hard going into the election. And like we talked earlier, we're going to talk Bitcoin later today. Bitcoin is another place that money is going to flow into, in my opinion, as a safe haven out of the market if the market starts downhill. Okay, checking back over to the headlines. We'll refresh these real quick. And we'll take a look. All right, there's our jobless claims back above 1 million. So remember, last week was the first week we dipped below 1 million since this whole crazy pandemic has started, but now it's back up above 1 million. That's going to be a little bit of a red flag. Not a huge deal in my mind because we're still tracking in the right direction, but certainly negative for the day. Fed minutes yesterday is what caused that big sell-off. Again, there's meetings every 6 weeks and the minutes come out every other 6 weeks. So you have the meeting, you have Chairman Powell speak, and 3 weeks later you get the minutes of what they actually detailed spoke about. Yeah, there's a lot of concern there with the Fed, and I don't blame them. Inflation's one of them. It didn't happen out of 2007 out to 2009, but it could happen. So this time around, because things are a little bit different, I'm not too worried, but certainly if inflation does start to creep up to 2% is a good thing. Anything higher than 2% is now considered bad, so we'll keep an eye on that. But that's what caused that big sell-off yesterday. All right, NVIDIA has been on fire, so these shares are declining. That's not too big of a headline other than the fact it's run up so much. Obviously, you heard Harris speak last night and Obama as well, so you can catch the big news. What I didn't talk about yesterday is if you talk about, Democrats and they do find a way to lose elections, it seems. But when you look at what AOC, she got 1 minute. She was allocated 1 minute of stage time, and the only thing she had to offer was she endorsed Bernie Sanders for president. So it does show that maybe the Democratic Party is not as tight as they try to appear. They're certainly trying to get around candidate Biden and his vice presidential selection Harris, but we'll see. I think there's a little more of a fracture there than you generally hear in the mainstream media. So, and AOC is kind of the future of the party, right? As crazy as that might be, but obviously she's with her own agenda and taking the stage there. We'll see if she gets more airtime as the election gets closer. All right, S&P set to drop again after, I've been talking for the past couple of weeks that when the market gets close to a record, it tends to hit the record. Well, after the record, markets tend to sell off or take a breather. So you either flatline at the record for a while before you get that march higher, or you actually come in before the market goes higher. So haven't seen that about the college pandemic related fees, but I do know Notre Dame canceled all classes the other day. So it's kind of, they canceled all in-person classes. Some Texas A&M, I was talking to an individual yesterday, is doing half classes. So if you're in a class, you go 1 day a week instead of 2, and then the other students go. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how all this unfolds. And of course, that affects college sports as well, which you already know the divide between the football conferences. So a lot to watch and see how those things play out. All right, American cutting some service. That makes sense. I haven't seen the teachers threaten strikes before, so that's a new one to me. That would obviously be bad. If teachers started striking around the country, obviously New York City is kind of a hotbed for coronavirus. I haven't heard so much about Detroit, but I would imagine that it is as well. But that would be something. That would complicate things significantly if you saw a teacher strike en masse, if you will. Hey, a Putin rival got poisoned. Interesting. All right, you saw not only did we make new highs, Apple touched 2 trillion yesterday and obviously faded after that. I love Apple. Obviously, it's my top holding across the book. Many people share it as their top holding, and it's about to split, which is great for the stock. The stocks run too far too fast. It really can't hold its current level, even going into the split. So it's kind of crazy to even think that it could. But all right, that's it for the headline review. Let's go on over to we'll start talking well, we won't talk. We'll go FinViz real quick just because I want to show you Blink. Blink is the one that's in trouble. I haven't read the report. I'm going to take a look at it right after I'm off the air this morning, and I anticipate blowing out of the name. So again, here's the kind of look at the stock pattern. Hung around $2 until July, started catching a lot of great news as their plans came out. Huge bump up here, obviously, from 7 to 12. It is at 9:45 now, and it is fading. I'm on another screen. It's at 8:33 right now at the open. I anticipate shorting that into the open. That's the #1 short today, and obviously we hold that in the book. So I anticipate being flat in that and Blink by probably fairly quickly, unless I see a reversal. The issue at hand is a short seller came out with a very negative report. There is a chance that this negative report is a bunch of fluff, but I need to read it and make a decision on it. Maybe we cut our positions in half because I do like it as a long-term play. If it's too scathing, though, then we're just going to have to exit the name, and then look later on for a reentry, or switch horses, which is switch over to Plug, which is the other one that we'll talk about. When you look at Plug's numbers, it's kind of the opposite story, right? So it's on the uptick here with some huge up numbers. So might have to horse switch. Either way, EV is a long-term theme out there that we want to capitalize on. All right, let's go over to Schwab, and I will show you the big board with the other names we're going to take a look at. So what you see here is you do have that Blink over here. They just had their earnings, which were fine, and it's been kind of selling off since then, and obviously you know about this morning where it is. Plug, opposite story, has a good, it's a long name to actually watch today, so I'll put that in my notes. Yeah, going long there. It's been on fire. It's got a new some new contracts that came out today, so very optimistic about that. Also NIO, which is middle left there on that pane, that's the Chinese electric vehicle car maker. Again, coolest website you can ever go to, nio.com. Check it out. And they came out with what's called battery as a service, which instead of the charging stations, they are taking, if I understand this correctly, they're going to start providing the batteries to the cars. So instead of like when you buy a Tesla, it's already got the batteries in it. Now, NIO is going to mass produce batteries and be able to, so for the car makers, they can focus on making the cars. And then your contract with NIO for the actual batteries. Interesting concept. I have to learn a little bit more to see if that's a moneymaker, but on the surface, it seems like it's printing cash by providing batteries as a service. So first time I've heard that concept. I read that this morning. Obviously, I need to put more brain cells behind that before I can put capital behind it, but it sure sounds like a good thing. And then lastly, you have, for the individual stock names, you have Tesla. Obviously, they have their own gigafactories. They're kind of the leader in the space, if you will. As far as investing, they do have their stock split coming up. Their PE earnings ratio is like 900 when the average is what, 25 to 30, even 30 in an overpriced market. So I don't know if they can live up to the hype, but certainly you've been rewarded if you've taken the risk in the name, and it will probably stay elevated until the split on August 31st. And then after the split, I do think that the name's going to have to at least take a breather. We shall see. Again, in a true valuation basis, $150 a share is literally where the stock should be if it were valued like Target or anything else that's out there. So the last two I have to offer for you are Drive and iDrive. So again, if you don't particularly care for the individual names out there, you can always go with an ETF. These are going to include not only the battery side of it, but also the car makers, and then there's suppliers and all kinds of little tiny firms that are in on this that are all put into these big ETFs where you can capitalize on that. When you look at the performance of these, you're going to get a more steady performance. Obviously, Blink and Plug are big components of all these, but they're kind of canceling each other out today, but kind of a straight line up. So if you want to go that route, then that's not bad. If you have a large portfolio, you might see some of your EV position transition into these because it's kind of hard to tell which horse is going to win the race at this point. So we'll go from there. But I do want to offer you those two alternatives. They're basically the same thing. So I don't have a best of breed between the two. All right, we'll switch over to the secondary layout. There it is, populating, and then we have Blink as the first one we'll take a look at. I'm going to type some names in the chat here real quick. So long, we're looking at VXX, Plug, and NIO. So those are the long names. And then if you want to start setting up your charts as I go through these, this is why I'm putting them in here, so you have them to be able to reference. Short is Blink, FEDU, XSPA, SYPR, IBIO, TLGT. The shorts are on fire this morning, so we're going to find something that's going to move. I am confident of that, especially after our big day yesterday. And then CR, looks like CRK. All right, so there's the short names we'll take a look at. So let's get to that. So Blink opened at 945. I talked about a few minutes ago, it's at 833. Now it's at 819. It went all the way down to below $7. that, or excuse me, below $8 down to $7.67 is the pre-market low. So we'll keep an eye on that, but I do think it's got room to the downside to be able to trade. So that'll be something we'll take a look at. The market is continuing down. I'm looking at it on another screen. We'll catch up to that in a minute. So we'll take a look at FEDU next over here. And Four Seasons Education, I don't really know what they do, but this is an earnings miss pretty hard. $1.18 to $1.05. I didn't realize it was down in that share range, so I'll probably steer clear. If you were going to do something like this, it would be a complete scalp. So I'll add that to my notes. Scalp meaning you're going to buy a bunch of it and then dump it when it moves like 2 or 3 cents. So not really what I want to do today, but it's certainly setting up for you if you want it. Next one is Expa Expressa Group. Again, don't know what they do. Smaller price point. Again, 314 down to 283. So my math tells me that's about a 10% gap down there. And again, bigger loss than expected from those guys. So we will take a look at them once we get on the other chart. SYPR. Again, if you have names you want me to look at, go ahead and throw them in the chat there. I'd be happy to look. Another low price point, 185 down to 145. That's kind of untouchable, but you can see earnings miss, faded all the way down, popped up on some good news, and then starting to fade. You could take that here. You're probably good with the 5-cent stop if you want to get into a smaller name, so that's not bad. iBio is another one we'll take a look at. 239 down to 219. Again, several day sell-off, so that's more of a continuation gap from there. It does have plenty of volume in the name, so it looks like traders are all over this one. We'll circle back to it. I'm probably not going to take that as a play. TLG, same sort of thing, 201 to 187. So just coming off of the big earnings pop that they had, all the way up to 360, now selling off to almost half of that. That's probably too gone to be able to touch. INOD is next one we'll take a look at. Closed after the big pop yesterday, 245. That's just, I don't like that with the name there. We aren't going to do that. Last one, CRK. Again, these are all from pre-market articles. I saw 620 down to 570. Let's see what we can find here on Comstock. I think it was a share offering, if you will. A lot to sort through here down here in the fine print. So Comstock Resources down 6.6%. Shops blocked, so they're putting up a portion of it for the sale. So we shall see. I certainly like that gap down, so I'll put that on the list to take a look at. Let's go around the different tabs here. So here's our top 10 in volume. Again, we're looking at it over 100,000 in volume, which the top 10 are all going to have over 1 million pretty much. And then we're looking for that 5 to 8% gap down or up. Don't see anything that meets that criteria. Let's go for the gainers. A couple of them that are up big on low volume. Overstock's been on fire. You know, that's a name that I like. Long names that we'll take a look at are, we'll look at the VXX first of all. Again, trading vehicle, this is where it jumped yesterday. I do think it has a chance to go long. So that's one of those, if you don't know what else to do, buy some VXX long and give yourself a nice big stop. I do think the market will continue on into the red today, even more so than it is now. So 24.77 up to 25.58. So quick math tells me that's a couple of percent. So it puts us in the heart of our envelope. Another, so I like that long, probably my number one long. Plug, let's look at the pop in plug. 1365 up to 1402. Don't see the headline associated with that, but I do know there's one out there, and then of course plenty of volume. As you can see, it stocks in an uptrend, so almost a continuation on the way up. So I do like it. I don't know if it's got enough move into it, make it worth a long play out there though. NEO does have the headline. So here's all of the headlines. Enter some international markets. Here is NIO launches batteries as a service at 6:01 a.m. So it's actually showing down right now. So I don't know why that is, but we'll keep it up. Expanding to Western markets next year, might export battery swapping service. Again, export that, not just in China there. And rivaling Tesla. So we'll see. That could be just a lot of talk, but I'd certainly like it from a long perspective. All right, back to the tabs. Nothing there on volume. Let's look at the decliners. I thought that was 15%. I was like, whoa. No, it's only 1% there for Tesla on the downside, so only a slight sell-off. None of these. Estee Lauder did miss earnings. I can go back to that. Missed earnings, and they announced a bunch of layoffs this morning. So again, some negative news. We'll see if that's got some downside in it. All right, back to the longs. Don't have a headline associated with these guys, so I'm not going to touch it. Rocket companies, no headline, even though it is setting up. We'll put it on just a watch list. L Brands beat earnings, is gapping up. They're kind of untouchable though because they've been beat up so hard. So BJ's Wholesale, Club Holdings, they beat earnings, already kind of in an uptrend. Not a quite big enough move though. All right, let's look at our last tab. We have 2.5 minutes to the open. We'll get set up here. Intel. Intel's doing a big share buyback, so that's another name to look at long. Remember, they dropped 20% the other day when they had a off of earnings, and it was not good. Kind of been left for dead since then. All right, going over to ThinkPipes. All right, you'll see that screen. Obviously, I have the SPY on the left. We'll keep Blink over here. That's our #1 short. Sorrento, that was yesterday's short, so we'll take that out and put XSPA. Again, I like that point, and I like the action going in for a long. Actually, let's keep it short with the market the way it is. SYPR, that one's pretty low. CRK, see if that's a better price point. I kind of like that one. We'll go with CRK. So here's how we have set up. And again, $8, $2, and $5. So you're pretty good with about 15 cents to 20 cents here on a Blink and CRK. And then XSPA, you can get down to 5 cents or so. But get into zoom these in. All right, as you can see, the market pretty steady sell-off going into the open. I'm going to come down and look at the numbers on another screen. So down about 0.5% across the board. Remember, the rest of the world was down over 1%. That won't necessarily mean that we're going to drop like a rock, but it's certainly setting up for it. All right, 30 seconds to go before we open for today's plays of the days. You see 4 screens on ThinkPipes. On the far left, you have the SPY, so we can watch the overall market. On the left-hand screen, we have a Blink short. Again, that's off of a scathing short report that came out. We have XSPA short in the middle. Again, smaller price point there, so smaller stop. Be careful with this one. And then CRK is short off of the headline on the right side. So everything short today, and the market is short, in the red at 0.5%. So here's the opening bell. All right, Blink's going right away. So is XSPA, and then CRK is backing up. We'll let CRK back up. Want to get an entry here on Blink, but would like to see it get back to $8 before we do. Okay, if it hits 780, we're going to take it short. Kind of want to get it up here, but wait till it clicks over to the next minute. All right, let's go 790. Again, this will be short. If it clicks down to 790, then that's when we will enter down in this range. If it backs up, that'd actually be good for us. I'd like to be up north of 8 for this entry if we could. Ooh, it is getting up there, so we'll let that go for a second. All right, XSPA is backing up, and then CRK went all the way up to 585. We'll get over to that in a minute. All right, let's jump in at 8. So if it comes back down to 8, that's when we'll hop in. Okay, being nice and patient with Blink here. Looks like we are going to get a better entry. So 805 is now the entry if we get it. Okay, there's our entry at 805, and that's where we're in. We'll draw see if I can draw an arrow short here. And then we are using a 25-cent stop, so all the way up here to 830, if you will. And that takes our 1R point, 825, down to 780. This would be our 1R point. So again, see if I can get my arrow drawn in here. Okay, so thrilled with the entry there on Blink. So we're going to let that cook, and then we'll transition our efforts to the other one. Stop it. There we go. All right. See if we can get an entry here. It went up to 290. Kind of liking the entry here better. So let's transition over to CRK. Let's use 570 as our entry. If we enter at 570, we can use I don't know if that'd be enough. We'll have to enter at 571. So we're watching CRK. Again, these are all short. But I like these dojis. Remember, those are all good. That means it's trying to go higher and it can't because there's sellers in that range. So we have to wait for the entry. We use 573 as the entry short, and then we'll use a 573. We'll use a 5-cent stop. So we're going to keep this actually pretty tight because once it rolls over, it's going to roll over, kind of like you see Blink doing there. So again, waiting on 573 on CRK. Glancing over to the market, market is actually moving a little bit higher there. There's our entry, 573. I saw it touch it. So again, entry, we're using 578, so a 5-cent stop up there. And then, of course, here's your market arrow, just so we keep it straight what we're doing. Let go. And there's your point. So 573 is our entry. So the first R is down here at 568, and the others are off the chart. All right, so we'll keep an eye on that. We'll have this set up. For our third short here, I do kind of like this entry, but we've got enough. We've got 2 R's at risk. And remember, we're risking 1 R per trade, so we can make those 3 R's per trade. Market's actually looking pretty strong here. Let me get that over to a 1-minute chart and then zooming in here so that keeps pace. So that may knock us out. We'll keep an eye. May get knocked out over here on CRK. Don't like that action at all, but it's what, when you set the trade, you set the trade, and then you either you hit it or you don't. Remember, if you get knocked out of the trade, you lose 1 R. If you make the trade, then you get 3 R. So that's using math to your side. All right, the other one in the middle there, XSPA, looks like it's working. I'm not going to hop in it though. We're just going to stick with the 2 we have and let them cook. Ooh, market's kind of powering higher. Looking on another screen, basically down 0.25 across the board. All right, so there we're out. We're down an R in CRK. That one did not work. Again, I used a tight stop, and that's the price you pay when you use a tight stop. If I used a 10-cent stop, we still would have been stopped out. So pretty much can't really take that trade wouldn't work no matter how you take it there. So down and X on CRK. All right, let's use the middle pane. Actually, we'll keep XBON there just to see if it would work. We use the right-hand pane to take a look at some other names out there. FEDU was a short. Hardly moving at all. That was our, we talked about it being a scalp, if you will. Look at the SPY, chugging higher. A lot of power in this market. iBio is another name. A lot of these are down in the dollar range or below $5 at least. So yeah, that would not have worked as far as a short. Still hanging out in that 5 to 10% range down though. All right, let's look at TLGT. Yeah, you would have had to take that at the open. It has a nice move down, but you couldn't, there's pretty much no way you could have taken that at the open. You would have had to wait, and then your entry kind of negates the trade. So it would not have worked there. All right, INOD is the next name we'll take a look at. All right, so open 222. Kind of got the volume pretty tame as far as the trade. That may tail off into the end of the day. We shall see. Obviously, the market 0.31% is what you're looking at there. It started at 0.5% down here. So again, chugging higher across the board. We'll look at the longs here in a second. EL was Estee Lauder. We'll see how Estee Lauder opened here. So opened and then went basically all the way down to 194. So a $4 move. I don't know if you could have taken that at the open, but I think you could come back into it here though. So you have the big move down and you see how it's kind of leveling out. That's what you're looking for. So leveling out, and then that's setting up generally for a long, leak throughout the day kind of move. I'm not going to do that, just saying that's what it is setting up for. Plug was our long name for EV. So again, this one, whoa, big drop. And again, maybe it's getting drugged down by Blink here, but goodness, look at this. Let's take a look at it closer. So for those folks, remember Plug was up like 5% pre-market. So again, it moved down pretty hard here. So let's just see. I'm going to go to another screen real quick, see if there's a negative headline out about Plug dropping that down. Yeah, no headlines associated with it, just falling like a rock. And of course, there goes Blink back up to even. We'll keep an eye on that. And then RKT, Rocket. That's what we're going to take a look at. Rocket was setting up as a long. Let's check that one out. So 22.5, pretty tough. Not much move up there. It's hanging out perfectly in the gap, but it doesn't look like it's sprouting legs to go higher. All right, and then Intel was the last one. Again, this is a buyback headline, so it should be getting some love out of Intel. So up 2.4 on the day. So it did get a pop here initially, and then obviously sold off. So 50 all the way down, almost $1 move there on the way down. I could see the Intel getting some love. If you back this chart out, you'll see the big cliff that they had. When was that? This was the big sell-off here. So 7 days ago, went from 50. That wasn't a big sell-off. Let's go back out. There's the big sell-off. So it was up here at 61 and dropped all the way down to, basically 54, and then continued on down over the course all the way down to 47. So when you look at this chart, Intel, pretty good company, but it's kind of been lumped in with old tech. So I think you could go higher there. Interesting banner across CNBC. Steve Bannon, a former Trump advisor, is on charges of defrauding donors. So that's probably going to add some red. That just popped up. So we'll see how that affects the overall market. All right, 10 minutes in. How are we doing? We busted out on our trade on CRK. We're in our trade here short for Blink. I like the action. We get some dojis to the upside. It's having trouble climbing above, holding above 8, if you will. So, of course, as I say that, there goes marching higher. But I'm not real worried. I think 830 is plenty safe for the name. So just stay in that trade. Leave your stops in, because we're going to go off of the screen. leave your stop at 8:30. If you hit it, you're down an hour, no big deal. We come back tomorrow. And then of course, just leave it in there for it to fade throughout the rest of the day. So your bottom stop, 805, 25 cents off, so 75, so 730 is your lower stop for your 3-hour point. So set that in and then just watch it throughout the day. All right, I like it. It's climbing up here because I'm probably gonna have to do some selling of it here in a few minutes. All right, let's go over and look at the what's going on around the world. Clickstream and play a little bit. Again, it's penny stock. They've got some good news coming out. So nice little pop there. There's Intel up. WP Carey is a real estate investment trust, as well as Realty Income, as well as Doc. So those are getting some love out there. As far as people paying the rent, has been pretty good commercially, to be honest, much better than expected. So these names cratered, they've come back significantly. SPTL is treasuries. So treasuries are when you see only just a few green names. And I think, again, the market's headed down here in decline. So we'll see. Let's take a look at the red side. Blink on the leaderboard, 13.8. I could see that down at the 20% range by the end of the day. Workhorse, another EV name. Sony has been on fire. LCA has been on fire, selling off a little bit. Southwest, BABA, we talked about. BABA, beat earnings and they're selling off. So that's pretty much the overall market. Bringing that down. NIO's another name we talked about, is in the red. So a lot of red out there and not much in the green. So we'll go back to our trading chart. Blink still, actually, let's get this. There we go. Well, we'll back this out so you can see the whole chart there. There, that's a better look at the chart from where we are. So a little bit in the red there on our trade. Again, we're just going to let that cook. All right, let's talk about Bitcoin. So we're going to leave that screen behind. Obviously, if you're in that trade, stay tuned to it. But if you're not, then focus along with my screen. I'm going to bring you down to to Google Chrome and to Bitcoin. Okay, so this is what I'll close on today. Again, if you have any questions on this, go ahead and pop up in the Q&A there. Okay, so Bitcoin, there's only going to be 21 million total Bitcoin mined. So again, the mining process is technology. It's unhackable. A lot of those things, those words we use, unhackable, that's like a challenge, right? So a lot of these things make it a negative investment, and that's why I've been dismissive of it. But to be honest, it is held up. It's still here. It's around like 11,000 as far as the total value. So, it did get up to 20. People were calling where, hey, this is going to 100. No, it's not. But the best way to think about that, and the guy's name is Mike, and he works for the government, and he's bounced around doing agency work. So, I mean, this guy's pretty smart that I talked to for a couple hours last night. And the first line there on cryptocurrency on Investopedia is Bitcoin is like digital gold in many ways. So that's what you're going to hear from him tonight, is a digital gold type analysis. And if it is digital gold, if it is a store of value, then it would be a place to go for two reasons. Safety from the market. So that's why money flows out of equities and into either bonds or into precious metals or into cash. It's a safe haven, if you will. Bitcoin would be an option for that. Or if you think of it from an inflation hedge, which people are worried about, the Fed minutes did not help people's worries out there by, they're talking openly about inflation and how we can try to manipulate it and control it, which is very difficult. That is one of their things that they're trying to do. So, can you go into Bitcoin as an inflation hedge? And I would say, yeah, I think you can, because it's going to be like gold. It will simply inflate with the level of inflation that we're having. So that's the investment reason. Another compounding factor is there's only going to be 20. You get down to the key takeaways here. There's only 21 million Bitcoins that can be mined. Well, already like 2 million have been lost. People, remember, if you put them in your digital wallet, which again, I haven't done this, so I'm hearing this is all secondhand, but put them in your digital wallet and then you lose your key. Well, guess what? That's gone. You know, that's the whole, if nobody has your password, you're not getting in. There's no reset password on your coin wallet. So that's another thing, that you can actually lose it. Most everything else in the world, you can kind of come at it another way if you can prove ownership. Bitcoin's not that way. If you lose it, it's gone. So we're at 18.5 million as far as Bitcoin mining, and I don't have the end date of, there it is, 18.5. Don't know when that's going to actually be fully mined, but remember, this is people make money off of mining them, computer power. Don't quite get that, but when a supply runs out, obviously that's where the price can inflate as well. So you have a contentious election, a market that's pretty high, hitting new highs. You have inflation, a lot of people believing that inflation happens, even if it doesn't happen. If a lot of people believe inflation happens, you know, those are all reasons. And then you have potential, shortened supply coming up. Those are all reasons to get into Bitcoin. Do I fully trust it? Not yet. Do I know the exact process of how to buy it and hold it? Not really. I haven't done it personally. I've read about it, but I'll know more tonight. So I'm going to spend some time this afternoon. Again, the interview is not till 7:30 tonight. So basically, once I'm done with the workday here, I'm going to go Bitcoin, Bitcoin 101, maybe hopefully 201, 301, 401 this afternoon, in preparation for the interview tonight. The interview is from 7:30 to 9, so a full 90 minutes of Bitcoin. So get up for that. But I will publish I should be able to have it out by 10:15 tonight to the world. So if you're anxious to learn more about Bitcoin, you can have it tonight if you're staying up late. Otherwise, you can wait till tomorrow. So there's rewards for mining it, effect of a finite Bitcoin supply. There are other digital coins out there. There are ICOs. Bitcoin is obviously the leader in the space. It's kind of like if you would compare gold to the other precious metals. You know, Bitcoin is the gold equivalent. It's the one you kind of, if you're going to dabble into that market, that's the one you want to be in. Ethereum's probably number 2. I would call that the silver equivalent, if you will. But it's used differently, much like gold and silver are used differently. But it'll be interesting. So when you look at the price, I mean, it's stable. It really is. So I can't be dismissive of it. It's been around for 10 years now, or 8+ years, if you will. So we shall see. You can track it. It's the IRS can track it. Each coin has its own, like stocks and bonds have CUSIPs. Each coin has its own digital identifier. Any transaction, I used to think it was the transactions were blind, if you will, like you can't see, nobody can see the transactions. That's not true. You can actually go to the national ledger of Bitcoin and track each Bitcoin and see when it was bought and sold, or when it was transacted, right? So that's helping the IRS with the taxation of it, because they can follow the coins. So therefore, somebody's going to owe taxes on that. So once they figure out who has the coin, then of course you have to, everything's out in the open there. So it's not quite the currency of international drug dealers and international gun runners that I thought it was. So there's the hype that came out, and there's the storylines that people believed, including me, and then there's the reality of it. So that's kind of what we're going to sort through tonight. Obviously, he's an expert in it and an investor, so there's some bias there. I'm not. There's a bias there, but we're basically going to try to come to some middle ground and dope it out for what should basically Bitcoin be in your portfolio, and when should it be. So anyhow, that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Let's share back out to the trade screen, and I'll show you where Blink is, and then we'll close for the day. Again, no questions to go off of. All right, we're up at Think Pipes again. So over here, we're approaching that about half an hour into the green there. Again, with the overall market popping up, I do think we'll see the market continue down into the red today. I think we'll see Blink down into the red today. So wouldn't even be worried about this trade at all. Again, if you're the type that likes to kill their trades before 10 Eastern, or half an hour, that's fine. If you wanted to kill it, yeah, you can kill it in here if you want. I have confidence it's going to continue, and I'll cycle back later today and with a play of the day video if it continues down. So that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for listening in, and we will catch you guys on tomorrow, Friday. Talk to you soon.